Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by my other prospect experts here at the Hockey Writers, Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. And we've got a big group here, as you should probably guess. We're going to do our first round mock draft. We always do one of these just before the draft. And we've got three other guys here to help us out. We got Lukas Bernasiewicz, Jacob Billington, and Mark Scheig. So we're just going to go through this 2024 mock draft, see how many picks we can get right. Probably none of them, except maybe Macklin Celebrini. Maybe the top five, we could get some names right. But we're just going to do this and have some fun with it. But thanks, Lukas, Jacob, and Mark for joining again, or Mark joining. And Jacob, you've never been on, and Lukas has never been on, but welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Always good to be here.
All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to be the commissioner here and put on my Gary Bettman hat. And you guys can boom if you want. That seems to be with the draft. So let's just get started. And the first overall pick belongs to the San Jose Sharks. And Jacob, you've got that pick. Who do the Sharks take first overall?
Yeah, there's no debate here. It's Macklin Celebrini. There's just so many positive things about him. Every aspect of his game is fantastic, and he's the clear-cut number one overall player.
Yeah, I don't think Mike Greer's already said it. It's a pretty quick pick. Macklin Celebrini going first overall.
The worst kept secret right now.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see his name coming up. All right, moving on. Second overall, Chicago Blackhawks. Dayton, you've got the Blackhawks pick. Who's second overall?
Yeah, so Mark, I do have to apologize because you did put out the do not draft list, and I am going to ignore it. I'm going to take Artem Levshunov. Second overall. I think while Ivan Demidov is a fantastic talent, he would work perfectly well with Connor Bedard. That's a guy you can find in other drafts. Not super common, like he's a very good talent, but you can find him in other places. A guy like Levshunov, you can't really get anywhere else, and this is a really special, I guess, opportunity for them to really solidify their defense. He's a right shot. He has high upside. There are some, concerns on rounding out his game, but I think all the tools are there that could make him a fantastic top pairing guy. You put him beside Korchinski, you've basically got your team made.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of saying that Levshunov's going to go to the Blackhawks. I mean, Demidov, something could change because Michkov is coming over now, and that could change some perspectives going into this draft. So who knows? I mean, maybe Chicago will change their mind and go Demidov, but we'll see. It's going to probably be one of those two guys going second overall, but we'll have to see in a couple days here. All right, third overall, Anaheim Ducks. Lukas, you've got their pick. This is where something could change in this draft. So who did the Ducks pick third overall?
So my pick for the Ducks is maybe slightly off the board, but I'm actually going to go with Caden Lindstrom here. I think that Caden adds an element to the Ducks that maybe they haven't had or seen in their prospect pool, because like Dayton was saying, like Demidov adds that skill aspect, but I think that they already have that in a lot of their players, acquiring Cutter Gauthier and having Leo Carlson. But I think that Caden brings that big 6'4" center that the organization just doesn't have, and putting him in that in that prospect pool and with that organization, I think is really going to benefit them from the long term.
Well, so far we're going with our same top five mock as we did a couple videos ago. So we'll see if it changes here. Yeah, Lindstrom, like I said, he's a very good. I think he's going to add a lot to the Ducks if that's the way they go. They already got some really good center depth, but I mean, yeah, I still say you need three deep in center. in the NHL now, and that's where the Ducks would be getting, is unless they trade Zegras or he continues playing on the wing. But Lindstrom's a good pick for the Ducks. All right, Mark, you've got Columbus Blue Jackets, 4th overall. We've got a few may go the same way. Who's going to the Blue Jackets?
Well, if you want to continue to hand me the second best player on a silver platter, I'm not going to deny it. And that said, it's got to be Ivan Demidov here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're compared to Nikita Kucherov already, and you've got the quickness, you've got the creativity, you've got the smarts, and someone who's just dynamic, you can't pass on a guy like that. And yes, the Blue Jackets might have a bunch of wingers on their team already, like Kirill Marchenko. I know they have to make a decision on Patrick Laine, Kent Johnson, among others. They really don't have someone that profiles out like Demidov on their team, which is why if he's available at 4, I think it becomes you race to the stage, you draft him, and then enjoy him and Adam Fantilli playing together.
That will be a very fun pairing. I mean, Demidov's talent-wise, he's probably the second best in this draft. And he's going 4th, at least in our mock here. We'll see what happens in the real one, but that's 2 in a row. Mark, we got Demidov going to the Blue Jackets, so we'll see what happens in a couple days again here. All right, 5th overall, Montreal Canadiens. Peter, you're on the clock.
Well, I hope the Montreal Canadiens fans like me for this. I'm not just picking this because of bloodlines. I am going TJ Ginla to the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, I think they do need some more help up the middle of the ice. I probably could have taken Berkeley Catton. I did in the previous mock draft on my own, but their left wing is a little bit thin, and TJ Ginla has shown to play either both up the middle or on the wing, so that gives him that versatility, but his stock just increased in the second half. The goal scoring, the playmaking, the driving of the play, being involved constantly and being at the forefront of each play that he's involved in. I think he's going to be the type of game-changing prospect that pushes the Montreal Canadiens a little bit further up the board, maybe out of a lottery pick, because now he joins the core of Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, you name it. That forward group's going to look very good with Ginla there.
All right, well, that's the exact top 5 as we did with our other top 5 video, but yeah, well, that's 2 in a row. Maybe we're gonna get this right. So there's the top 5. Moving on to the 6th overall pick, Utah Hockey Club, their first ever draft pick. Jacob, who are they picking?
I think it's a pretty easy decision for Utah right now, and that's to go with left defenseman Sam Dickinson. They have a great defense group right now, great young one at least, with JJ Mosier, Yusuf Alamaki, Sean Dursey, and whatnot. And you have Simashev and Maverick Lamoureux in the prospect pipeline already, but adding all but a surefire thing in Sam Dickinson, especially for his two-way play, mostly his defensive game, but it's not impossible that he develops a pretty strong offensive game as well. If he can come into the NHL and really make an impact on Utah's blue line 2 years down the road, then it's a fantastic pick for them.
I mean, Utah, I think, is going to go defense here. I mean, I think that's their weakest part of the prospect pool. They got some pretty high-end forwards in their system, but defense, they definitely do need a guy like that. I mean, there's quite a few defensemen you could have picked from here. There's only one defenseman that's gone so far, and Dickinson could. I mean, there's a lot of argument of who's the second best on this board, but there's a lot of guys still available, and I think Dickinson's probably, like you say, surefire NHLer, could potentially be in the league a lot sooner than some of these other guys, just because of his well-rounded game already. All right, Dayton, Ottawa Senators, 7th overall. They only have one first-round pick now, and this is it. So who are they picking?
Well, a lot of, I guess, conversation has been around them drafting a defenseman. And while I think there is a massive need for defense with the Senators, I'm going to change it up a little bit because I think they need a defenseman now. Don't draft a player in the first round for now. You draft it for the future. You draft the best player available. And I think right now that's Berkeley Catton. He is a dynamic force. He's a center. Watching him, he just moves through players like they're not there. He has a great shot. He's a great playmaker. I think that's something that's missing with the top 6 of the Senators, and especially with the uncertainty around Josh Norris's future. And they do have some depth problems with their center and their forwards. I think adding someone like Catton would give them a lot more freedom, a lot more just like ability to move people around and security with what they have there.
I mean, Catton is I think, yeah, like you say, it's the one thing with the Senators, like they've got some pretty good defensemen in their system already. I mean, Sanderson's going to be your top pairing guy for a long time. But yeah, they're, especially with, if Norris was good and everything was great, I think maybe not as dire to get some guys like this, but Catton he has some high upside, and I'd be really excited to see what he can do on a team like the Senators, who do have a pretty good top end, with Stützle and Tkachuk. I mean, he'd be a pretty exciting guy to be with those guys. So yeah, I like that pick. All right, Seattle Kraken, 8th overall. Lukas, you've got they've gotten some pretty good picks lately. This will be their highest one since the Beniers pick. So 8th overall, who are the Kraken getting?
I think that Ron Francis is going to run up to the stage at this point in this mock draft and take Zane Parekh. I think that Seattle has done a phenomenal job with their offensive prospect pool. I don't know if Shane Wright's considered a prospect, but I'll throw him in there. So you got Wright, you got Carson Rankoff, you got Jagger Fergus, you got David Goyette, you got incredible offensive prospects, but on the defensive side, they're kind of thin. I'd say Ty Nelson's probably their best one. He'll be in Coachella Valley next year, but a guy like Zane Parekh could develop into a number 1 defenseman, right shot defenseman, just won the Memorial Cup, played big minutes with Saginaw, and really, really impressed me throughout the season. And I think that that's the right pick for Seattle.
Well, like I said, the defenseman, there's quite a few really talented guys here still. So Zane Parekh would be probably my pick here too. And I misspoke. Shane Wright he was 6th overall. So he would have been the last one. This one's 8th. So yeah, Beniers was before that. All right. But Parekh would be a good pick for the Kraken. Their defense, like you said, isn't as high end, especially for young guys. They got some good forwards, but yeah, Parekh would really add to their pipeline. All right, Mark, 9th overall, Calgary Flames. No TJ Ginla, unfortunately. So he's gone. So who do the Flames pick here?
Well, they were hoping that one of the top D would fall to them, and they agreed to have their choice here between Saleev and William. And if they wanted to go offense, Seneca is somebody that could go in this range as well. It would be a real good addition. I think William's going to be the pick here for Calgary, though. They were hoping that one of the top D would land. And just the way that the draft broke for them just worked out quite nice. So you want to talk about someone who's a smooth skater, who's smart at both ends of the ice. He actually might be one of the just best defensemen in this entire draft. And to be able to land him at 9, I think would just be a huge win for a Flames team that needs to address a lot of needs.
Yeah, again, just like a couple teams here. I think their defense, like they've traded away a lot of their defensemen lately, and now they need some young guys to come. I don't really think they have a surefire top pairing guy in their system right now. And I mean, Boom definitely has that potential. And I've said before, I was really impressed with him at the World Juniors, how mature he was, and how, I think, again, he's another guy that could potentially be in the NHL sooner than later. And yeah, the Flames definitely need that. All right, I'm finishing off top 10. We got 10th overall, New Jersey Devils. Peter, you've got their pick.
Considering that they got Jacob Markstrom, I don't think we're going to see the Devils next season in a lottery position. I think they're going to make this pick count as a result of the fact that they're not necessarily building for the future, but they're going to get someone quick enough to join them as soon as possible. And I think that's going to be Michael Branstad-Nygaard. I think he's got a lot of pro qualities. He's very much ready to make that transition quicker and sooner rather than later. Played well against men in both the Hockey Allsvenskan and the World Hockey Championships. He's already got the pro size, frame, mindset, work ethic, shot. Prototypical middle 6 power forward. And whenever he does make that jump over, there's no rush for him to move up into the lineup. He could make his way up from the 3rd line to the 2nd, what have you, or even possibly on that 1st line to be a finisher to Jack Hughes. So I really think that this is maybe a bit of a reach considering where he's slated to be, maybe 12 to 17, but I think it's one that could benefit the Devils very much.
Yeah, I think they need those secondary players. They've got the high-end guys. I think Brensing Nygaard, I've said many times of how well-rounded. Again, another guy that could potentially be in the NHL sooner because of that ability to be that two-way guy already. And like you say, playing with men and playing well. So I think that's a good pick for the Devils at 10, even though it may be a bit high, but definitely I think fits what they're building right now. All right, 11th overall, Jacob, Buffalo Sabres. Lots of great names still on the board. Who are they getting at 11?
Well, it's really tough because you look at the Sabres prospect pool and there's no needs there. Like they've spent so long getting all these guys, and there's so many players ready to take that next step. And if it was any other team right now, I'm taking Anton Silayev, but I'm gonna have to go with Konsta Helenius, and that's because looking at the Buffalo Sabres prospect pool, they don't have that really strong two-way center. They have some good players up in the lineup like Dylan Cousins and whatnot, but you look at their prospect pool and they don't have any of these guys coming up. And so Konsta Helenius, who, again, like you just mentioned with Brandon Nygaard, he's going to be pretty close to the NHL. He spent time in the men's league in the Liga, and he's done very well. So he has a really solid two-way game. He's got a good shot. He's got a lot of really good, well-rounded skills. And while there isn't really anything that stands out above all as like his super elite skill, like you see with a lot of top 15 prospects, the ability to just play such a balanced game is fantastic. And Konsta Helenius would come into Sabres lineup in 2 years, let's say, and make a huge impact in their middle six.
Like you said, the Sabres don't have any needs really. I mean, they just got so many prospects and so many good prospects. They could use those guys to get some NHL ready guys now. I mean, who knows how many of these guys are going to be traded, but they just keep adding, and there's going to be one day where they're going to just make the playoffs with this strong team and be making the playoffs all the time. But Helenius would be a very good pick for them at 11. Right, Dayton, Philadelphia Flyers at 12th overall. Who do they got? Who are they getting?
Yeah, I think they have two really good options right here. They could address their defense. Their defense is on the smaller side, especially the younger guys. You're looking at Jamie Drysdale, Emil Andre. Those guys are smaller, still very talented. Or they could find somebody who can just put the puck in the net at whim. I'm leaning towards more of a guy who can mesh really well with Matvei Michkov, who is coming over imminently, and that would be Cole Yzerman. He is easily the best shooter in this draft class, I think. And he's started to really round out his game, and you started to see that at the under 18s. He played, a little bit more of a reserved role and still scored, 9 goals? He is just a really, really interesting player that I think now has a much higher upside than maybe we gave him credit for at the beginning, or maybe in the middle of the season where he really had some defensive issues.
Yeah, he was really good at the under 18s. And I know Peter mentioned it. He started to become more of a well-rounded guy. He's starting to figure some stuff out. And, if he's already figuring that he needs to start having that extra elements to his game, he's going to be a much better guy down the road. So yeah, I think he could definitely go around here, and the Flyers would definitely benefit with him in the line, especially with Michkov coming over. That's a pretty good two guys to be building around moving forward. Right, Lucas, Minnesota Wild, 13th overall. Again, there's many names still available here. Who are the Wild taking?
Yeah, you're right. A lot of names still available, but when it comes to Minnesota, they're very weak, I'd say, or thin on their defensive side. So I'm going to take Carter Yakimchuk from the Calgary Hitmen. I think that Carter brings a lot of what any team, but in this case, the Wild, will need in order to have a steady defense in the future. Right-handed shot, 6'3", a late birthday, which means that he can come to the AHL quicker. And so I think that he would be a great fit in the Wild system. And I think that he's really gonna help that team that's pretty thin on their defensive prospects. So adding him will strengthen that weakness.
Yeah, I mean they've got Brock Faber, who is also a right-hand shot, so that's some pretty good 1-2 punch down in the two pairings. And yeah, they definitely need some depth. I think they're picking a defenseman, especially with how many defensemen are still going to be available at this point, even once the draft gets going. I think they're going to be picking one of these guys, and Yakimchuk would be a very good fit for them for sure. All right, Mark, you've got the San Jose Sharks at 14th overall. This is their second first-round pick. Who are they getting here?
They were targeting Cole Eiserman before he was taken off the board. That would be just an awesome story with him and Celebrini being best friends. But they have a great choice between Saleyev and Seneca at this point in the draft, and either or would be a great pick to go with Celebrini. But a 6'7" defenseman who just has a ton of upside, and if he's able to make that, to be able to get Celebrini and Saleyev in with the first 14 picks is a pretty good haul for the Sharks. So Saleyev is the pick here at 14 overall.
That's a great pick for the Sharks here. I mean, again, their forward group, I think they've got a lot, especially adding Celebrini. Their defense, they just don't have a top pairing guy in their system. I don't. Right now, it's like Mario Ferraro. I mean, Shakir Makamadulan, I mean, I think could potentially be a top 4 guy, but I don't think he's a top pairing. But yeah, Saleyev would probably he'd be the pick, I think, for the Sharks here. That would really be a good haul, getting Celebrini and him at this point. All right, round the top 15, we've got 15th overall Detroit Red Wings. I mean, they looks like Eiserman's trying to make some moves in free agency, but he's got the 15th overall pick here. Who are you picking at this point?
Yeah, it kind of seems like defenses, they're pretty much set on the back end. And Mark, if you weren't going to take Beckett Seneca, I sure as hell I'm going to take Beckett Seneca right now. I mean, he's already filling out into his size. Like, he had that massive growth spurt, and he's already using that to his advantage. Can probably be a little bit more physical. We're starting to see a little bit more of that presence, but the hands that he possesses is probably like top 3 in this draft class right now. The way that he's able to move into the soft areas and open ice, the ability to draw players in and even just crash the net with his improved speed, I really think that he gives him that power forward element. And the Red Wings, they got good names on the wing, but a lot of question marks, especially on the right side too. You don't know what's happening with Patrick Kane in the future. You got DeBrincat and Raymond. DeBrincat could play left or right, so Seneca could really move up onto that right side and be a factor for the Red Wings' future in the top 6. So he's going to be my pick for sure.
Yeah, it's a great pick for the Red Wings. I think if that's how this draft goes, I think they pick him here. He really would fit with that forward group, especially with connecting with Raymond, with Larkin. I think really good addition to the prospect pool for sure. All right, 16th overall, St. Louis Blues. Jacob, you've got their pick. Who are they going with?
So the Blues have kind of stocked up on forward prospects as of late. They got Dalibor Dvorsky, Jimmy Snuggerud, Zachary Bolduc, Zach Dean. They have a whole bunch of high-end forward prospects. So defense is kind of an area of need, and I think that this is a fantastic place to take Stian Solberg. He kind of plays that physical, gritty game that the Blues kind of built themselves around. He's not the biggest defenseman. He's 6'2". Like, he's got the size. I've got to a point that I was hoping that Saleyev would drop down to the Blues at this point. But no, he's got a really good shot. He's got really good skating. And again, with that physicality and kind of gritty play, it's almost like he was meant to be a St. Louis Blue. He's gonna fit in on that blue line and kind of learn some of the ways from Colton Parayko, I think, and kind of be that transition gap between when Parayko's on his way out and when Solberg's ready to make his impact at the NHL lineup. And he's just got really good two-way play. He can move the puck. He might not be able to score the most points. He's not going to probably win the Norris or the point race or anything, but he is really reliable both ways on both sides of the puck.
Yeah, I mean, Solberg's really increased his stock, and I think he is a first-round pick for sure. I think this is probably where he's going to go around this area. And Solberg, I think, he does fit the Blues for sure. And we'll see if he does go around here. All right, Washington Capitals, Dayton, 17th overall. Who are you going with for the Capitals?
I think that, well, first of all, the Capitals have never been afraid to take a Russian who is maybe a little bit riskier. So I'm going to go with Igor Chernyshев, who might be one of the more underrated prospects. He mainly played in the KHL this year, and he's got a great blend of quickness, strength, offensive powers, defensive awareness. Like, he's kind of bringing a full package already. And the KHL noticed that and brought him up for most of the season, as well as 10 playoff games. And teenagers aren't regularly getting, that kind of exposure in one of the best leagues in the world. He's also one of the better power forwards, which is really tough to pass up when you're looking at, who can take over this maybe next phase of the team. I think the Capitals are looking at, who can take the crown next. They're, I guess, a turnover of the guard, and Chernyshев could be a really great person, maybe not to lead that, but to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think, again, they're, like you say, they're not afraid to go with Russians, because they've had a lot of success with them, and I think Chernyshев could be a really good fit, especially with how they're trying to, like you say, trying to go into the next era, because Ovechkin will retire in the next few years. So they're going to have to start getting that next wave going, and he could be part of that for sure. All right, Lucas, Chicago Blackhawks. This is a pick they got from the New York Islanders. Who are you going with at 18th overall here?
I find it very apropos, I guess, that I'm using the Blackhawks, because at the draft last year, Kyle Davidson was Mike's having a big F yeah that Oliver Moore dropped to him, because I had the same feeling when no one picked Adam Jiricek. I think that like my past pick, the Blackhawks are pretty thin, I'd say, with defensive prospects. I know Del Mastro was able to play a few games. Korchinski played a full year. Sam Renzel's probably gonna commit at some point, but a player like Adam Jiricek, again, right-handed defenseman, very similar to some of the other players that we've talked about, can be a cornerstone of your team. Really impressive stats this year. Impressive resume. Obviously, having the injury was hurt his stock a little bit, but I think that with the healing that he's had, I think he's going to have a great season coming back from that injury. So I think that this would be the perfect pick for the Blackhawks to have at this point.
Yeah, Jiricek, it's unfortunate he got injured at the World Juniors there, because he was supposed to be way higher of a pick going into this season. And unfortunately, the injury happened, not as many viewings, and all of a sudden he's now down closer to the 20s rather than the 15 area. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but then the Blackhawks are going to benefit from it at least in this mock draft. So they go with 2 defensemen in the first round with here. So, but I think that's a need in their organization. They got a lot of great forwards, defense, not as much. So we'll see if that's how it goes in the regular draft here. All right, 19th overall, Vegas Golden Knights. Mark, this is probably their highest pick in a long time. So who are they going with here?
They have a lot of interesting players that they can pick from here. So this could be a range where I could see a guy like Trevor Connolly possibly go. When you have that kind of skill, I know the questions are there. Could see a team like Vegas take him. Michael Hage is somebody that could go here. But a guy that I think is not maybe getting enough attention, I think, Matt, I think you even wrote the profile here. Sacha Boisvert, I think, would be a great pick for Vegas. Somebody who's a leader, got a good shot, a lot of Vancey Kopitar in him. If you can put somebody like that at center on Vegas, you mentioned the high pick. It's a pretty easy pick for them at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I think Boisvert is going to be a very good two-way center, like Kopitar, and he's been, compared to guys even like Malkin, and that's very high. That's a very high ceiling. I don't think he's there, but even Kopitar is a pretty high ceiling, because he's ridiculously good NHLer too. And But if he can be somewhere in between there, that's still a pretty good pick. And I think Voigtberg is going to end up being a very good, maybe a high second line, maybe a 1A first line type guy. And yeah, I like that pick for the Golden Knights, especially. We'll see if they keep them. I mean, they seem to trade all these guys so far, but yeah, that'd be a good pick here. All right, 20th overall, New York Islanders. This is a pick that came from Tampa Bay, Chicago. The Islanders, 20th overall. This is their first round pick in a long time too. So, Peter, who are you going with for the Islanders?
Yeah, the Islanders need a bunch of everything at this point. Mark, if you weren't going to take Sacha Boisvert, again, I was going to, but seeing that he's now off the board, I'm going with the second best center at this point, and that's Michael Haig. I think that he's got a lot of skill and potential that can really bolster this team's future. I mean, you look at the way that Matt Barzal plays. He plays at a fast pace, great skill, hands, isn't afraid to attack the middle of the ice and keep defenders on their heels. Haig is the same type of player. I know he had a slow start, but throughout the season, he kept producing and taking the next step further and further. And he just absolutely put his name on the map as a top 20 pick. The Islanders could go anywhere. They could go on the left wing. They could add some more depth on the right, but they're very, very thin up the middle of the ice, aside from Barzal and Horvat and even Brock Nelson. But once those guys go, they're going to need someone to step in, and that's definitely going to be Michael Haig.
They need forwards. I think their biggest need is up front. I mean, especially some high-end guys, prospect-wise, because they don't have any. They don't have anyone that's really there yet. I mean, they've got some guys that could potentially be, but I'm not really confident in for sure them being that. But Haig, I mean, he's not a for sure either, but I think he could definitely be a pick here for the Islanders. All right, Lucas, 21st overall, the LA Kings. Who are they going with?
Well, with the player I'm about to select, it's unfortunate that Winnipeg's not here because I'm going with Jet Luchenko from the Guelph Storm. I think that taking a center at this point, really taking a center at any point should be a priority for all teams. The Kings in past years haven't necessarily had first round picks. I'm pretty sure in the last 2 years they haven't had one. I could be wrong, but a player like Jet Luchenko is a young player, a phenomenal player in the Guelph system that I didn't know a lot about until I went to the Prospects game in January, and he and a few other players really impressed me with how they were able to play the game. And I think that his stock just rose because of that, just like a lot of other players. And I really think that this would be a great player for the Kings. Kopitar's not getting any younger, and they really are going to need some of those young, skilled forwards to help their team. So I think Jet Luchenko really slots in well at the spot.
Again, the Kings are going to have to start thinking beyond Kopitar, and because I mean, like he's going to retire soon. He's probably going to be. I mean, unless he stays in the league a lot longer than think, but they're going to have to start planning for the future, for especially down the middle. So he'd be a great pick here for the Kings. All right, Dayton, 22nd overall, Nashville Predators. Who are they going with?
Yeah, of course, lots of options. They could address, I don't think they have any like major issues, but a lot of things that could use some help because they have a top prospect in kind of most of the areas. But beyond that, I don't know. So I'm going to go with somebody who I think is, just maybe the best guy on the board right now, and that's Alphonse Fry. He is a fantastically good skater. And when I think of where he could fit, maybe put him alongside someone like Tanner Mollendijk, another fantastic skater who they took in the first round last year. So Nashville apparently loves good skaters. And Alphonse Fry had some really good showings at the under 18s. I was a little bit wary of kind of his production and how it would transfer from the J20 league, which is, it's not a super strong junior league. But at the under 18s, he was fantastic. He looked commanding, I think, every time he stepped on the ice. He looks calm. He looks in control. And he's always engaged. He doesn't seem to hang back whether it's on offense or defense. And some of the other defensemen that we've already taken actually have some major questions in one of those areas. So I think Nashville goes with a really well-rounded and a really enticing defenseman in Fry.
Yeah, I think Fry has a potential to probably go over Leo Sell and Wellness, even though he's ranked higher on Central Scouting's list. But I think he does have a lot of good upside. And the Predators, they haven't developed those high-end defensemen in a bit. I mean, when they had that string of guys getting Weber, Hamhuis, I'm trying to think of any, Ellis, and lots of great defensemen that they kept just churning out. And they haven't done it lately, but I think they still have that ability to draft those really good defensemen, and Frey could definitely be that for sure. All right, Peter, 23rd overall, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've got some good names here to pick from. Who are they going with?
Yeah, so they don't pick until around the 5th round. So I think they're going to probably they could do the same thing like they did with Easton Cowan last year, swing high for somebody maybe in a 2nd or 3rd round spot that that has a lot of upside, but they got the player that I want available to them right now. And that's EJ Emery from the National Development Team program. They need that solid two-way shutdown physical defender on the back end with the right shot. He checks off all of those boxes. He has that snot piss and vinegar mentality that, Brad Treliving has talked about before. He can make big open ice hits. He can take away lanes. His offensive game, still question mark, but he has added a playmaking element. And if he can get pucks on net and work on that shot, there isn't any doubt in my mind that he could be like a Jake Muzzin, maybe 2.0, 3.0 if we count Jake McCabe right now. But he's definitely the type of player that they need in the back end because there's some question marks about some of their other defensive prospects, especially being weak on the right side.
Yeah, I think I really think that probably the Maple Leafs are going defense as well. I mean, they're a system that doesn't have a lot of great prospects on the defensive side, and Namella, we don't know yet with him. I really think he has a lot of upside. We haven't seen it in the NHL yet. I mean, very early, but I think this is a good pick for the Maple Leafs here at this point too. All right, 24th overall, Mark, Colorado Avalanche. Who are you going with?
They need all the help they can get. If you kind of recall last year, Cal Ritchie kind of fell into their lap because of all the injury questions.
Yeah.
I actually think if the draft falls like this and Trevor Connolly is still there, I think he's the best available player. And I know that that's going to turn a lot of heads. But I feel like that he's going to go higher than that in the real draft coming up. So if he falls at 24 and he's there, I know they might look at Cole Beaudoin, they might look at Liam Greentree in this spot. But if Connolly's there, they're going to think long and hard about it. And I think that they've seen that he's put in some of the work. And he's shown that he's been remorseful for the mistake that he's made. There was an interview out there that he was able to at least give his side of the story. Someone's going to take him, and I think Colorado would be a very interesting spot for Connolly. So that's the pick.
Yeah, I could see the Avalanche picking a guy like that. I mean, they're not afraid of adding. I mean, Nichushkin they've been dealing with, and I mean he's worked out pretty well for him when he's been in the lineup. I think that's a good pick. Connolly going at 24. All right, Jacob, this was the Senators' pick, but now it's the Boston Bruins. So they actually got their pick back from trading it to the Red Wings, and Senators had that pick. Yeah, so it's now the Boston Bruins at 25th overall. Who are they going with?
Yeah, I think the position that the Bruins are in right now, they need a pretty safe bet. A player like Connolly, it would be great if he hit, but Connolly's a bit of a riskier player. And I think they need to go with somebody with a really high floor. And based on who's available, I think that Cole Beaudoin has the highest floor left in the draft. He's got the size. He's 6'2". He's a good center. And that kind of fits Boston. They like the big players. He's a great playmaker. He could slide in a couple of years, and if he can play alongside David Pastrnak, then that would be a fantastic fit. And there's really not much to knock about his game. His skating could use a little bit of work, but other than that, he's a really good two-way guy, and he's one of those players that you watch him play and you kind of say, I could really see this kind of player buying into the Bruins system and being a fantastic asset for the club.
Yeah, I see that too. I do agree with you. I think the Bruins need to go for more of a safer bet here. I mean, that they wouldn't have had a first round pick if they didn't trade Allmark, and now they got that back. I think they have to get a guy that probably has a better chance of making the NHL, and I think Beaudoin definitely does. And I know, Peter, you like him being a first round pick, and saying that he may surprise as a first round pick. Well, in our draft, he is. So we'll see if he does end up being one. All right, Peter, you got Montreal Canadiens again here at 26th overall. This is their second first round pick. This came from the Winnipeg Jets. Who are they going with?
This may be kind of an off the board pick, but this is based on a player that's really increased his stock, and I really enjoyed talking to him at the draft combine, and that's Teddy Stiga. I think that this is great spot for him to become a first rounder, late first. I think that Vincent Trocheck mentality and mindset and style of play that he plays with could benefit the Montreal Canadiens. And we talk about how TJ Ginla plays with that pace, that energy, and that intensity. Stiga does the exact same thing. And again, fills up on the left side. Again, probably could go a center, but with the way that Stiga has continued to elevate his game, especially even at the U18s, I thought he was very fantastic on a very deep Team USA team. He's continued to produce, and he's continued to be a standout player. So I think that this is going to be a good pick for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, another big riser lately. And I think, again, probably a late first round pick, and probably going to go around this point too. So Canadiens getting a good one there. Right, 27th overall, Carolina Hurricanes. Mark, you've got this pick. I mean, Hurricanes have been they've hit a lot of their first rounders lately. And who are they going with here?
Well, they have a lot of choices that they could go here. It's interesting because it'll be Tulski's first draft kind of on his own as the new general manager. They've gone wing a lot here in recent drafts, but they've really hit on them. So it's kind of at this point in the first round, it sort of feels like best available player would be considered here. And this would fall on my list that I've got. Emil Hemming would be somebody that I think would be a good pick here, kind of late in the first round. Some of the things that he does, really good shot, really good on the power play. And when he's a confident player, he's really fun to watch, got good speed. I just think that somebody that kind of fits the way that Carolina plays would be a really good pick at this point in the draft for them at 27.
And another Finnish player. They love their Finns. So I definitely see that going at this point with the Hurricanes. And I agree. I think he does fit Brendan Moore's system. He would really work with a lot of the guys they have in the lineup already. So yeah, that's a good pick at 27th. All right, Lucas, 28th overall, the Calgary Flames. This came from the Vancouver Canucks and the Elias Lindholm trade. So who are they going with?
I had to double check to see if this player was still available, because I can't believe that no one's taken this player. I'm going with Liam Greentree. I think this is an absolute steal for the Calgary Flames at 28. This is a guy that many mocks has been had mid round, about 15, 16, and now at 28. I'm very, very shocked that he has dropped this low. This is a player that on a very, very not good Windsor Spitfire team was the captain of his team, put up some very, very impressive numbers. And I think that if he was on a better CHL team, his stock would have been even higher than it already is. So I think that having Greentree fall to the Calgary Flames at pick number 28 is an absolute steal for Craig Conroy and his staff, and they should not hesitate to take this player.
Yeah, Greentree dropping to 28 here. That's a pretty big drop. He is one of the probably a top 15, and we've talked about him being in that range. And he falls to 28 in our mock. I don't know if that's how it's going to go. It probably won't. He's probably going to be much higher, but you never know. I mean, anyone can go at any point in these drafts, and we've seen surprises before, and that could happen here. So, but Flames getting Greentree there with their second first round pick. That's a pretty good one. All right, 29th overall, the Dallas Stars. Dayton, who are you going with?
Well, I was gonna go with Green Tree, and now I'm having to recalibrate here a little bit. Um, there's a few interesting options. I think personally, Lucas Pettersson is the best player off the board, but I don't think the Stars need another center. They have a lot of center depth right now, and I just don't see them going for somebody like that. So I think I'm gonna go back to Russia because there's a lot of Russians that are being overlooked, and I'm gonna go with Nikita Artemonov. He is, yeah, he's been kind of overlooked. He's been on the same team with Salayev, and he's also been playing a lot of minutes. Now, the Torpedo, that the team that he's on, hasn't been super strong, which is maybe why he's gotten a ton of minutes. But still, he's getting that experience, and they're trusting him with, more responsibility that most teenagers in that league won't get. He also, fun fact, became the first under 18 player to record a 4-point game in the KHL. So he's got some puck skills. He's got tons of creativity. I think that kind of fits well with what Dallas is doing right now, with guys like Stankoven and Maverick Bourque and Wyatt Johnson and players like that. His skating may be a little bit weaker, but if you're picking 29th, you can kind of gamble on a player who has really high upside, but maybe is a bit riskier.
Mm-hmm. Well, things with the Stars, they've hit on a lot of their late first-round picks lately. Wyatt Johnson, late first-rounder. That's a big one. Maverick Bourque, I believe, was a late first as well. And of course, Stankoven, second-round pick. They've hit some pretty big names lately, and Artemonov could potentially be another one, and we'll see if they go with him there. All right, Jacob, 30th overall, the New York Rangers. Their prospect pool has a few good guys, but who are they going with at 30th?
Yeah, again, you look at the Rangers prospect pool, and there's no real big holes in it. Like they're really set. I mean, their whole organizational depth. Like they don't really need defensemen right now. They don't really need wingers or centers. They're just kind of set everywhere. But I think that they go with a pretty reliable guy and go with Sam O'Reilly. That might be a little bit high for some people, but I think that Sam O'Reilly is going to sneak into the end of the first round here. He's an excellent two-way player. He had a fantastic rookie season, a little bit late, next year late for his rookie season in the OHL. But yeah, he's got a great two-way game. His skating needs some work, and that's going to turn a couple teams off, which is totally fine. But he great possession skills. He's great in the transition. And he's not going to give up on any puck. He's really great in the board battles. He's great in front of the net. He's great at collecting the rebounds. He's going to fight for the puck every time he's on the ice. So I think that he would fit the mold of the Rangers really well. He would fit them really well too, because you look at their depth right now and they have a lot of kind of offensive guys. Like you look at Philip Hedl, you look at Alexis Lafreniere, you look at Capo Caco's good defensively, but he doesn't have the offense. And O'Reilly can come in and do a little bit of both and have a really strong two-way game.
I like that pick for the Rangers. O'Reilly could sneak in. I do agree. I think he could sneak into the first. I know, Peter, you were saying he could be a surprise first rounder. I think he's either around this point or very early in the second round, because I don't think he's going past probably this 33rd, 34th pick. And yeah, I really like that pick for the Rangers for sure. All right, moving into the Stanley Cup finalists, and of course, none of them are here because they traded them away. Anaheim Ducks at 31st overall got this from the Edmonton Oilers. Peter, who are they going with?
I really wish I could take two players if I could, because I'm handcuffed. One, I really do like John Mustard. I think he's a surprise first rounder. I think he's got the speed and skill to be one, but I would love for it to work out this way because Lucas took him 3rd overall, and I'm going to reunite Andrew Basha with Caden Lindstrom. Just for the storyline here, I know it probably may not happen. I just like the feel-good story, but they do need some left wing depth. It's kind of weak aside from Cutter Gauthier and maybe Sasha Passagel, but past that, really not a whole lot. And plus there's also time for him to grow, develop. He's got a lot of energy, speed. The ability to find the middle of the ice consistently, I think he's going to be a first rounder. I think this is the perfect range for him. And I think he's got that mindset where he can be an effective middle six type of player that can, grind it out along the boards, get into the dirty areas, but also, find an open space and attack the net. Really picked it up when Caitlin Lindstrom went down offensively. So I think he's got a lot of upside there as well.
Yeah, it could potentially be a good pairing. Both, obviously, Lindstrom's going to make the NHL. Basha probably will too. Those two guys having the same chemistry with the Ducks, that'd be pretty good duo there for sure. All right, Mark, you've got the last pick of the first round with the Philadelphia Flyers, 32nd overall. They got this from the Florida Panthers. Who's the last first round pick here?
Yeah, and they were able to address one big need earlier in the draft, and I think that this player that I'm about to pick, I think, is good for somebody that has 2 first-round picks, because you can take a little bit of a chance. And there's a lot of split opinions on this guy, but Dean Letourneau, I think, would be somebody that I think would fit. 6'6". I mean, somebody like that should have a lot more physicality to their game. But when you look at the skating, you look at what he can do with his skill. There's certainly some appeal there, but there's certainly some that want to see other elements in his game. But I think the risk reward kind of fits there, and Philadelphia being able to add a center, somebody that can have that kind of upside if he's able to figure out the rest of his game. I think Letourneau will be a really good pick at 32.
Yeah, I think he's got some good upside too. I agree. I think, and again, the Flyers, they need some, they've got some good pieces, but yeah, down the middle, I think they don't have as many really young guys. And I think Letourneau would be a pretty good pick for the Flyers at 32. All right. 32 picks in the books, day one in the books, and our mock draft. So just a couple questions before we end it here. I'll start with you, Peter. Were there any surprises that you saw in this first round here? If this is how it went, what are you surprised? Anyone that went too low, too high? What do you see here?
Yeah, definitely Liam Greentree falling to just out inside of the first round. I think that's a little bit of a surprise there, but based on how many players have increased their stock, and based on how if teams are going based on need as well, there's a possibility that can happen. I still think of him as a top 20 type of player because he's got that power forward element, the goal scoring and the playmaking. You could always work on your skating. I think that's something that really shouldn't affect him, but it was a surprise to see him fall here.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest surprise. I think everyone's going to agree with that one for sure. Mark, who are you looking at top names now? Going into the second round, who are you looking at that's going to go off the board really early on that wasn't a first round pick?
Yeah, the name that immediately comes to my mind is a guy like Tarek Parashak. I thought that he would end up going kind of late in the first round. A lot to like there. Julius Miettinen is somebody I thought might sneak in. Somebody will definitely be watching. I don't think Ryder Ritchie went either, correct? Did I miss that? Yeah,
that was my biggest shock personally. I was gonna take him with Calgary's pick until I figured out Greentree was still on the
board. There you go.
A lot of good names at the beginning of day 2 for these teams for sure, though.
Yeah. Lukas, was there anyone else that you kind of thought didn't go in the first round that you were surprised by, or a positioning or anything like that?
Like I said before, my big one was Ryder Ritchie. I think that he could be I think that there are some concerns with his game, but I think that that's a player that can really help teams in the future. I think he plays a really fast-paced game. I was really impressed with him at the U18s. He obviously missed some time this year with injury, but I think that's a player that can that's got an NHL future.
Sure. Dayton, Jacob, anything to add on any surprises, any thoughts for this first round here?
Yeah, little surprised that Luke Misa and Aaron Kiviharju slipped out of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why. There was a lot of other players that snuck in. It's tough to make those decisions when you're in the 20 to 30 range.
Yeah,
because there's so many guys who I think are really only separated by a hair. And unfortunately, in this one. Kiviharju didn't make the cut, and so he would be, I think, an early pick in the first or in the second round. Same with Luke Misa. Cole Hudson, I think, is another guy to keep an eye on. He is bigger than his brother and still plays very similarly. So I think they're like, you can't make the same mistake twice, right?
May happen. Jacob, you have anything?
Yeah, two names that I kind of expected to go in the first round was Lucas Pettersson and Dominic Badinka. I expected both of them to be right around that like 28 to 32. But getting them within the first 5-8 picks of the second round would be great value for any team kind of picking in that early section.
Yeah, there's lots of great names, and you never know what can happen in the draft. There's, teams like a certain player and just shakes everything up. Look where Kotkaniemi went, and that just messed up the whole top part of the draft, and then everything kind of went crazy there. So there's been many examples of that. When Tyler Boucher went, that changed things. Barrett Hayden, I think, was another one that messed things up in that top bit. So yeah, things can happen, and then all of a sudden you got names dropping, and then teams get them at certain points. So we'll see what happens on Friday. But thanks everyone for coming on this mock draft and having fun with, and picking some of these guys. So make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com. We've got the draft guide. We've got lots of prospect profile, lots of features, lots of fun stuff to read. And of course, we got all the videos on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel you can take a look at as well. But we got the fun's just getting started here. We got the draft in a couple days, and we're gonna have all the coverage there live as the picks are being made. We're gonna have the pieces out. You can take a look at the players that are picked, and we're gonna have fun. But until our next episode of Prospect Corner, we'll see you next time.